Not all Bond cars are great, some of them are terrible. We're going to count down 007 of the worst Bond cars of all time, finishing up with what we think is the pick of the worst wheels that have ever had a license to landfill. So stick around to find out which car should never have seen living daylight, despite the fact that it managed to predict the future. If you agree with our picks, then let us know. But first, Mr. Bond, number 7, 2CV, For Your Eyes Only. In this movie, James Bond and Melina Havelock escape from Hector Gonzalez's Spanish villa in a yellow Citroën 2CV. The bright yellow classic French car then takes a pounding before making it back to the Hotel Bella Vista. The vehicle is arguably the opposite of what a Bond car should be. It's slow, ugly, and the only gadget available was the ability to right itself when it flips over, although this did rely on having friendly passers-by helping the secret agent. Many 2CVs were used for the chase scenes. The trailer version used at Pinewood Studios is now at Bewley National Motor Museum in the UK, and others are dotted around Europe with various Citroën collectors. To coincide with the movie's release, the car maker sold a special edition model which was finished in the same yellow paint scheme, 007 logos on the doors and boot, plus a smattering of stick-on bullet holes for good measure. These cars can now fetch as much as £5,000 with enthusiasts. Unfortunately, we're not that enthusiastic about it as a Bond car, so it takes a deserved place on this list. Number 6, Mustang Mach-1, Diamonds Are Forever. This is not the only mention of Ford or indeed Diamonds Are Forever on this list. There's more from both later on, but for now we're looking at the Mustang Mach-1. Hang on, the Mustang is a great car. Why is it here? Well, it's mainly on this list for its terrible chase sequence in the Sean Connery movie. Again, Bond needs to borrow some wheels from one of his girls, this time diamond smuggler Tiffany Case. He drives her Mach-1 back to Las Vegas, shaking the police off in the process. It's during this point the car is responsible for one of the worst continuity errors of all time. The secret agent enters an alley on his two right wheels only for him to exit on the left. This is made worse by an attempted cover-up of the mistake by adding in an interior shot of the car appearing to pivot in the middle of the alley. Honourable mention at this point goes to the Sunbeam Alpine from Dr. No, which was almost included on this list for similar reasons. Although it's not quite as bad as the scene featuring the magical Mustang, the chase scene featuring the Alpine in the first Bond movie hasn't dated well with its bad editing, tacky rear projection, and Connery treated the wheel like someone who's had a few too many martinis. Number 5, GoldenEye, BMW Z3. This is a car that often tops lists of the most hated cars amongst Bond fans. Although the car is beautiful, the colour, design, and the fact it was German made this an odd pick for the spy. Quite the contrast to the classic DB5 seen at the start of the film. Then there are the gadgets, missiles and behind headlamp guns, which aren't seen again after their tease courtesy of Q. The car itself doesn't get a lot of screen time, which leads everyone watching to feel like this motor was more about style over substance and didn't need to be there in the first place. Maybe it should have got the same treatment as The World Is Not Enough Z8 when it got sawn in two by a helicopter. Back to the Z3, and the whole thing reeked of BMW as the highest bidder for what was then a Bond reboot, 1995's GoldenEye. We'll have more product placement crimes later in the video, but for now we're going to go a little off-road. Number 4, Lunar Buggy, Diamonds Are Forever. Most people think the Roger Moore era of Bond is when things started to get a little bit silly, but there's an argument to be had that the Lunar Buggy scene, where 007 escapes from Blofeld's moon-themed set, is one of the most ridiculous in the series. Yes, technically this isn't a car, but we thought it needed to be here for just how stupid it looks. Add to this the fact the buggy kept breaking down during filming, as it was never built to withstand the punishment it took for shots outside the studio, which director Guy Hamilton insisted on adding. On one occasion during the shoot, it broke down out of frame, but the rear wheel which had come off can be seen bouncing back into shot in the finished movie. None of this stopped the one and only moon buggy going up for auction in 2019 at a price of around $600,000. While we're on the subject of Bond cars that aren't technically cars, let's not forget about the Octopussy tuk-tuk driven by Bond's Indian equivalent VJ. Somehow he manages to pop a wheelie with something that would be better suited to collecting your grandma's shopping, not to mention the leap over a camel at one point. Both this and the moon buggy are definitely up there for the weirdest and most ridiculous Bond vehicles ever seen on the silver screen. Number 3, AMC Hornet, the man with the golden gun. There's one thing having a BMW as a Bond car, there's another putting him in an AMC. The only reason Roger Moore found himself in a Hornet was the fact that AMC had monopolised the car in The Man with the Golden Gun to the point where a chase with villain Scaramanga features a whole showroom of the cars. There's more detail on this in our video looking at the flying AMC Matador. Back to the Hornet, and it will be remembered for the stunning corkscrew jump it performed, which took a team of university scientists to execute. But unfortunately, it'll also be remembered for the slide whistle over that stunt, an addition that composer John Barry thought was a good idea at the time and subsequently regretted. Director Guy Hamilton, despite this being an incredibly precise stunt to perform, amazingly thought the scene wouldn't be taken seriously, so kept the whistle in. But away from this stunt, the AMC lacks the power, style, grace or additions you'd associate with the Bond car. It was pure product placement. This leads us to another honourable mention of another car used for similar reasons, the Ford Mondeo in Casino Royale. For no good reason, other than to put a car advert in a movie, Daniel Craig is seen driving around the Bahamas for a minute of screen time that didn't need to be there. And now we've done the same. Sorry. Number 2, Renault 11, A View to a Kill. From shameless car commercials back to a truly terrible car now, the Renault 11 11 is up there with the 2CV as the most terrible looking car on this list, both courtesy of style trendsetters, the French. It's saying something that when this car gets its roof and back end chopped off by a barrier and oncoming car respectively, it looks better. 3 cars were used for the sequence, one was a complete vehicle, another without a roof, and the last one was in 2 halves for the climax of the chase. It shows just how unpopular this car is, as when it was put up for auction in 2008, it only sold for £4,200. That's quite a way off the £5 million a DB5 from Thunderball fetched in recent years, or the more humble Hornet we mentioned earlier that sold for £89,000 in 2017. The Renault 11 is so bad that when Car and Driver selected the road legal version as its 1983 European Car of the Year, they decided to issue an apology 16 years later. But it's not the most terrible car on our list. That honour goes to our number 1, even though there is a twist to this one's story. Number 1, Aston Martin V12 Vanquish. Die Another Day. Terrible movie, another beautiful Bond Aston. So why is this top of the list? It's not the car itself that's the reason for being here. It's what the production team did with it that's the issue. It was a decision they came to regret, although they had inadvertently predicted future technology to come. They chose to make the car invisible. Long-running Bond special effects guru Chris Corbould said himself, "Where we stretched it too far was on Die Another Day and the invisible car. I wasn't keen on that from day one. We went too far." However, even though this feature was laughed out of cinemas in 2002, this technology has been made real. Even at the time, the now defunct Defense Evaluation and Research Agency was working on it, and since then tanks have adopted similar tech. In 2012, Mercedes added a $263,000 mat of LEDs to a hatchback with a digital SLR camera on the opposite side of the car, and more recently, nanotechnology has been used to do a similar thing. Maybe if the car had been in a better movie, it wouldn't have been so hated, but unfortunately for the Vanquish, it was in a film with terrible CGI, a ridiculous plot, and Madonna fencing.